Recording. Hi everyone, it's John here with Brandon on another Indie Creative Mastermind. And this week we're going to talk about some of the different changes that's been going on, some of the different opportunities that's being created for indie creatives. So as I was saying earlier, Brandon, before we got started and everything, I recently published an article on Medium, starting to get different attention and stuff about how we've come into an age where there's a lot more opportunities for folks, artists, entrepreneurs to put out their work than ever before. I feel that this year is really going to be big for the indie creatives just for that reason, that like it's a combination of like publishing being more accessible, easier. It's where people are downloading their stuff more, like they're more comfortable with that. They're definitely really between iTunes and things like, Kindle, they're, downloading the different authors and the artists, their work and stuff like that, just more easily and stuff. So what are you seeing yourself as to like some of the different opportunities that's for, I know that for you, you work with a lot of different musicians and everything. So what are you telling them about like some of the opportunities that's being presented now compared to before and stuff?
I think the biggest opportunity is just really becoming aware of the direct-to-fan capabilities and just getting out of the mindset of, trying to get discovered and basically focus on trying to build an empire. And really, there's no reason for anybody who has talent, who has understanding to make a living from their music, because the only thing that was holding people back before was their ability to find a consumer of their product. And now with social media, with Facebook having over 1 billion people by itself and YouTube having over 1 billion people by itself, everybody's there. So there's really not any more excuses for why you can't do it other than, your sheer just kind of like will to go out and learn how to find your perfect audience.
Yeah, I was watching the story with the gal who, I don't know if you saw, she's known as the crazy cat lady on the dating site and stuff, and where basically on Match.com, where it was a video that went viral, and basically people were wondering who the heck is this crazy gal, and stuff like that, and really she's an actress, and what she did was she posted this fake video of where, she's talking about how much she loves cats and wants to hug every one of them and stuff. And she goes into tears and everything like that. And she got about 26 million views, So and here's the thing though, it wasn't her first video. She's been creating other videos and stuff like that. But for some reason, and granted that one was really funny and everything like that, but that one just caught people's attention and it went viral. And that's the thing that about these, different things and stuff, you never know. And you have to just keep working at it, at your craft, whatever it is. For her, it was acting, and now she's been on different shows. She's got a new series that's going to be on YouTube and other channels and stuff like that. And that's the thing, though. If she had given up on video number 2 or 3 or whatever and stuff, then that never would have happened. And she said it herself. She says, I'm really thankful. I'm living proof that anything can happen. So that's absolutely one of the key things. So in terms of before, the mindset of before versus now, I see it as kind of part of it is before we had gatekeepers that you had to in the music industry, it was about getting the studios to kind of buy into things, and then or for writers, it was about the publishing houses giving approval. So now that that's put aside and stuff, I think we almost have the opposite problem, right? Where then it's about the, getting noticed and stuff like that. And the thing that you and I have talked a lot about is to basically, not to kind of be me too and stuff like that, but find ways that you stand out. So, going back a little bit to the example we just gave and stuff, she, just did something that was unique to her, that was this kind of, comedy / where she basically did something that was a little bit out there and everything like that. But I think it's too often when people try to do something that's a stunt, it comes off that way. So what are some of the things that you tell the folks you work with, like how can they stand out as a musician, for example, that basically, shares what they're about and then connects with their audience?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty simple actually. Everybody, and this is gonna sound super basic, but it's the truth. Every single person is made uniquely and individually. Like I've never met another person like me, ever, right? So if I just do me, I already am different from everybody else. But the problem with the industry is that everybody tries to be like everybody else. They try to dress like them, they try to talk like them, they try to sing, rap, dance like them. So there's no differentiation. Like you're just a carbon copy of something that we've already seen. So I think if people can get secure with being them, then from there they can find their own uniqueness, and that will naturally attract people. Like the lady with the cats, that was probably her personality, right? That's what she does. So anybody else who goes to try to do something with the cats, if that's not you, it's not going to work, right? So I think just really getting back to authenticity and it being okay to be you will create some type of like we're always more interested. Like think about when you watch a movie. Movie is about being interested in characters, right? Like we can literally sit there and watch 2 hours of a character because we're invested into that story. We're invested into that life of that person. That person's not trying to be somebody else. That person's not trying to do something else. We just get to go on the journey. And I think if people can understand that, look, people want to go on your journey. They want to see who you are. They want to sit back and watch what you're doing. And then I think that, that's how you do it.
Yeah, I mean, recently, of course, David Bowie passed away and stuff like that, and he's a great example of, where before him there was nobody else like him and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and he wasn't doing it as some kind of stunt. He was just being him, and it was kind of out there and stuff like that until people started basically copying him. But the thing that they missed though was by trying to be also kind of this transgender thing, whatever, stuff like that, is that they were just trying to copy the parts that they thought was what he was about, but really what he was doing was being himself. That was a part that was his essence and stuff. And I totally agree. I mean, that's the part that like we miss out on, is understanding what was it that really makes somebody unique and stuff. And then if anything, what he said too was, after you start seeing all those people trying to be like him, then he stopped doing that. Then he changed again. Because that like kind of was part of it, was that he just always was looking for what was his thing and stuff like that. So as people find that though, that like trying to find their voice and to and to really share what it is about them and stuff, like what are some of the ways though to kind of convey that though? Like in other words, like let's say on social media, like how does somebody then share like the things about their personality or what they're about, or what is what they're about, I guess, is really the key thing.
I mean, I think that the number one thing most artists are missing, really most businesses and anybody who's trying to do anything online, is they don't have a cause. They don't have a purpose for doing it. See, once you have a purpose for doing something, then people become interested in how intense and how you go after that thing that you're going for. Like you go after that purpose. Like if you think about the most successful people in the world, they have a very clear purpose, and we sit back and watch them like, wow, they're going for it. Like if you think about Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or just anybody who's Michael Jackson or just anybody, they went for it. Like they're like going for something, and we are on the journey, and we get to sit back and say, wow, they're for this and they're against this, right? So I always teach people I work with, every great person has a false competitor, meaning like it's somebody that they essentially go up against, right? So it's like Michael Jackson was for world peace, and while the world was in shambles. So he represented like world peace. You know, Steve Jobs was for like this MacBook Pro, which represented a certain lifestyle, and the false competitor was the PC. So he put those two up against each other, and we got to sit back and watch them battle. So I think what makes people interesting is not trying to be like somebody else, but defining like what your purpose is, and then pretty much going after it in a way where the audience can sit back and say, wow, this guy, like, or this girl, they're really going for it.
So, like, what are some of the clues, though, to what it is that, you know, that they should stand for, or that to basically to jump on as to their cause and stuff like that? How does an artist, you know, find that why, though? How do they discover it for themselves?
I mean, I think everybody in life has a purpose. You know what I mean? And that's where you got to start with you first and say, okay, what's my purpose? What's my reason for doing this? And that requires you to get outside of yourself and really come up with something that is meaningful, that has an impact. And then through that, it's just about putting it together in a presentation form. And I don't mean manufacturing something, but I mean putting it together in a way that is presentable to the world, that we can enjoy it, and basically, you know, we can go for it. I mean, look at Donald Trump. He's a great example, right? We're sitting back watching him go after something. That's what's really intriguing about his whole situation, right? And he has the false competitor. Like he created the false competitor. So he's like, we stand for this and we don't stand for that. So now the world gets to make their opinions. We get to debate. We get to go back and forth. Anything that's ever been big has always been debatable. Like if you think about the best rappers ever, that's always a topic that's debatable. It's like, you know, is it this person? Is it that person? Or if you think about the best dancers or the best singers, it's debatable. So I think you have to kind of create a scenario for yourself that makes people stand up and pay attention and question it. Like, is what this person's saying like true? And then like again, I think about when Lil Wayne was first coming out, he used to always say, I'm the best rapper alive. So we get to sit back and say, okay, we get to make our opinions, and then we get to see, is this guy going to live out this thing that he's saying? And that's what made him interesting. I think if he would have never made that claim, he would have just been like everybody else, even though he's talented and all this good stuff. But so being bold and stepping forward and saying, look, this is what I am, or this is what I stand for, I think that little thing allows people to make a decision whether or not they want to, you know, follow your journey or not.
Yeah, I think the other part about it is, you know, along with, you know, finding their stand and basically putting it out there, is really figuring out what is their platform. And I think platform is one of those things that like really is confusing to a lot of artists because of the fact that, like, you know, there's so many different things. Like, you know, we wonder, like, you know, does that mean social media? We wonder if like that means, you know, like my blog, or, you know, like, and I think that's the thing, just like kind of figuring out what is, you know, defining what is a platform for an artist and stuff. So like for a musician, would you say that, you know, for them, one of the key things is iTunes necessarily, or is it other, you know, like sites depending on the music and stuff? What are some of the ways for an artist to identify where to kind of meet their audience halfway?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times those questions arrive, those are symptoms of a problem when people ask those questions. And what I mean by that is that they don't understand what they're actually doing. Like, they don't understand what they should be doing. So it's not about platforms, right? Not about social media. Social media is just an abstract concept for, you know, these different networks of people. It's not a really like a real thing. Like you can't show me social media. You'd have to show me like Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or, you know, different networks. So I think when artists get away from thinking like, you know, in terms of like social media, and start thinking like, I need to build relationships, and these platforms have people there that I can go out there and not pitch to, not sell to, but I can build a relationship. And if you think about life, everything comes down to a relationship with something. It's not just a take, it's always a give and take. I think most artists, they just want to take. I create music, you should buy it from me. That's taking. Whereas if you approach it like, how could I serve these people with my music, with my brand, with my message, whose life can I impact? Then I think that's where you start from. Then you look on social media and you say, okay, who am I looking for? And then you go after those specific types of people.
Yeah, the thing that I've run into different times is, seeing different entrepreneurs. They spend a lot of time on social media and they think, oh, I'm putting in all this time and stuff like that, and I'm not getting any results or anything. And that's why. That's the key, is that, like, kind of maybe on some superficial level, they are like kind of, maybe relating to the different followers in some way and stuff, and maybe they're having some few conversations and everything, but they're not, like you said, they're not really building a relationship per se. And I think that's the thing that, like, whether you're a musician or a filmmaker, at some point, you definitely got to get off social media and really connect with people one-on-one, in person and stuff. Even if, like, you're on a stage and, like, your fans are, like, kind of in the audience and stuff like that. But there's something about, like, kind of that immediacy of being in the same room, and that really makes a difference. I think, like next week, we're going to have a filmmaker talk about Film Fest and how that's really been an experience for her and everything. And so, like, what are some other places and ways, though, that for musicians and other artists that they can connect with people beyond the social media, and like we've said, like, build a real relationship? What is, beyond simply, like, kind of, just...
Yeah, I mean, I think that, honestly, to be honest with you, I think you can do it all on social media. I mean, I think people misunderstand what a relationship means, right? So a relationship, there's plenty of people who are face to face every day that don't have a relationship with each other, right? So the fact that you are in a room with somebody, or that you're there, we see it all the time with artists and their fans. That doesn't mean that they're connecting, right? I think connection and relationship comes down to an understanding, and it comes down to a mutual benefit. It comes down to reciprocity. These are all things that you can create online. So the real problem is people don't know how to create a relationship. They don't know what that means. They don't know how to grow that. They don't know how to cultivate that. So, really what they need to do is first figure out, how do I create a relationship? How do I spark that? How do I take a complete stranger who I've never met in person and turn them into a fan? And once you can understand that, it's there. Like, I do it every day, and I do it through recorded videos. So by the time I talk to a lot of people, they already feel like they know me. They already, like, we're talking like nothing's uncomfortable, nothing. It's like, because I've communicated that we have the same shared values, we have the same interests, we have the same likes. Usually in a relationship, somebody's the support and the other person's the person who's receiving the support. So all these things can be injected into a fan base if you're consciously aware that that's what you're doing, right? So most people just aren't aware that that's what they're doing, because from a primal level, they're trying to, survive, that they're just trying to get what they can get out of it, versus thinking about, like, man, this person over here, like, I could really build a relationship and affect that person. So that's what I think, that artists got to focus on. It's so simple that it's overlooked. You know what I mean? But it's the difference between having everything that you want and having nothing at all.
So, yeah, I mean, definitely it's about providing what it is that your fans are looking for, and really, like, connecting them on the level where that's provided. I mean, whether it's social media, whether it's, like, through your website. So what are some of the different some different ways, though, of, like, kind of providing that value, though? Like, okay, you've gotten to know them, you've gotten kind of, so what is it that kind of, stands out from, say, just something that, like, somebody, like, they kind of think, oh, that's cool that he does, like a music video, for example, stuff. They find some value in it, versus something that, like, they really find, like, real like kind of, hey, take my money kind of value and stuff? What is it that kind of, like makes that distinction?
Yeah. So whenever I'm consulting business owners or artists, it's the same thing. And I always tell them that 99.999% of people that I ever talk to, they don't know what value is. They never thought about it. They don't know how to communicate it. They don't know how it looks. They don't know how it's perceived. They don't spend enough time with understanding value. And very successful artists and companies, they have a clear understanding of how to communicate value. So that's the first thing, is you got to figure out, how do I communicate value? Now, the way that I normally do it in my businesses is I start with the perspective of the person I'm trying to build the relationship with. And instead of me saying, what can I get? I say, what can I give? Right? And I say, every human being on this planet is looking for a priceless answer to a very specific problem. So if I was an artist, I would say, okay, based on what I've gone through in my life and based on my talents, how can my music be a solution to a specific type of person? That's the first thing I would ask myself. Then I would say, what is this person going through? What keeps them up at night? What keeps them, in fear? What are they anxious about? What are they dealing with on a regular basis? What are their anxieties? What are their pains? What are their frustrations? I would literally write out all of this stuff about this fan. And then I would take my life experiences and I would use it to help that fan overcome those things. So what that does is that instantly creates a relationship, because now the relationship is, wow, you're talented, plus you're speaking directly to my problems, so you're helping me solve them. And then for the fan, it's like, I'm willing to pay you because you've helped me, and now there's been this bond created that I feel kind of indebted to you, so I will support you. And that's really where you start. And then from there, it's just building from that and creating experiences for the fans that actually facilitate those common shared values that brought you guys together.
Yeah, I mean, it's that funny thing that sometimes a person will hesitate to spend even like 99 cents on like a purchase, right? Like something off iTunes, whatever, and everything like that. But on the other hand, if what they're buying is an experience, if what they're paying for is that, like, wow, like this is somebody who, like, gets me, buying a connection, that's something that, like, is really that thing about, it being priceless and everything like that, where, like, if it's something where the person feels like, you not only get them and stuff like that, but you're really connecting with them on another level and everything. That's why people pay hundreds and thousands of dollars for a concert ticket, because, to feel that they're there experiencing an artist and stuff, and the experience around them and everything. That's something that, like, that's what they're really buying then. It's not, like, they're not just paying for going to a concert. They're paying for that whole shared experience.
Yeah.
So in terms of defining that even more, though, like, in other words, what it is that creates that value and stuff like that. How does an artist kind of go about defining even, like in other words, maybe it is like kind of creating this shared experience within a room all together and stuff like that. Like, what is it that, like, then, like, how do they start figuring out what it is that, like, then these fans will value on that level and everything like that? Like, how does that start getting shaped from, like, kind of these ideas and, like, kind of these questions and thoughts, as you talked about, into actual tangible things that they can kind of create as an experience?
Yeah. Kevin Kelly, he calls it generative values. And generative value is, he has a bunch of different models that are called generative values, but what it is it essentially means that the value is generated out of the relationship with the person. And that creates the platform for, things like accessibility, embodiment, priority access. So these are all business models that can't be reproduced. So if I have a relationship with the fan and they value the relationship, then I can create products now that I can charge priority access to. So if I'm going to launch an album, instead of me just saying, hey, I'm going to put this on iTunes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an experience around the launch, and then I'm going to charge extra for priority access to it. You see, there's another quote that I read that said, when things become ubiquitous, the things that can't be produced become valuable, right? So music is ubiquitous right now. Like, there's no reason to buy music. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, people don't like to hear that, but why would the fan is basically saying, why should I buy this if I know I can get it for free? You know what I mean? Like, what am I paying for? When 2 weeks later, this guy over here is going to download it for free. That's just the reality, right or wrong. That's the industry that we're in. Now, can the fan get the priority access, 2 weeks or 3 weeks from later? No. That's a once in a lifetime experience that they can pay for. So I think artists have to start thinking along those lines of, how do I create priority access? How do I create immediacy? How do I create embodiment? How do I create personalized, specialized experiences for everything? And then from there, they can start making money. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. But to do that, you have to be willing to first invest into your audience, invest into them enough to where that generative value comes alive, and they say, okay, I'm willing to pay $50. Like, I always tell everybody I work with, if you it's really simple. If you simply decide what your shared values are, and then find a disconnected body of people from all around the world who share those values, right? You put out marketing material on social media that attracts those people. And then you consistently build a relationship with them every single day. And then you go to release an album and you say, you know what? I'm going to charge $25 for this album, and I'm going to release it 2 weeks early to the first 500 people or the first 200 people. And I'm going to bring you guys on, a blab only for a small group of people. It's going to be $25, just like what we're doing right now. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to have my guitar and I'm going to play every track on the song, on the new album, before anybody else gets to hear it. And then I'm going to give you the backstory on each song. Right? But it's only for the first 50 people, the first 100 people who pay $25 today. Now for the first, let's say 25 people, I'm going to send you out one of these sweaters that I'm going to autograph, and it's going to be like a limited edition of this that you can wear to the next concert or wear to the next show, or you can frame it, or you can do whatever. And if you want to get one of these limited sweaters, I'm going to charge you $75. You see, it's like, that's how you have to be thinking about making money as an artist, because the music, it's like anybody can get that, but everybody can't get this sweater. Everybody can't get this hat. Everybody can't get on this blab, right? So now there's a reason. Now I can create urgency, and I can create all of the things that go into marketing and sales that trigger people to buy. But if I'm just like, hey, you can get my music on iTunes. Well, I could do that tomorrow. I could do that the next day, or I could just wait for it to become free. There's no urgency in that, right? And if you look at any successful brand, like Michael Jordan, like Sony PlayStation, any of these things, the iPhone, why do they only create limited supply for those products and have people waiting in line and doing all that? Because what it does is it creates that value for it, right? It creates that desire for it. So that's what I think that artists need to really focus on doing, which takes a completely different mindset than what most people have to be able to make money from the music.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the reasons why I profiled Amanda Palmer in my article in the Rise of the Indie Creatives. In fact, I'll share the link a little bit. But basically, what she did was, she spoke to an audience that really, was rabid for her kind of this kind of circus act kind of performance and everything like that, where she would go into different cities and invite like kind of anybody who was like a street performer or anybody like that to be part of the show, and that would be like the pre-show before they performed their music and stuff. And so that became her shtick. I mean, that became her unique kind of trait. And then where not only was it like involving the audience and stuff, but also where it was unique to her, and that was something that like kind of really made things stand out. And why, like you said, why somebody was not going to. In fact, she gave away her music for free. Like that was, she was one of the first artists to do that. And then where after a while, the thing was is like people would go up to her and like literally hand her money because they felt bad about like kind of maybe they got a pirated copy of a CD or something like that. So I think that's a key, is like kind of really creating that, like you said, that immediacy, that kind of, that uniqueness and stuff that, that comes with like something like an Apple product, which is why like, when Apple comes out with the new iPhone stuff, this lines out the doors because of that uniqueness. You're not going to get the same quality from any, like an Android phone, with all these different brands, whatever, stuff like that, versus an iPhone. An iPhone is, just something that you're going to only get from an iStore and stuff. So along with that, then, like, what happens in terms of like, then somebody who's an artist that like, they, even though that like they have these fans who love them and stuff like that, there's this hesitation, right? Like kind of like, like I just don't know about, like kind of asking for $25. I feel like I'm begging, stuff like that. What do you say to somebody, when they have that?
Yeah. Well, if you feel like you're begging, you probably are. I mean, that's the straight up answer. Like, if you feel like you're begging, you probably are. If you've given somebody enough value, you wouldn't feel like you're begging, right? It's like, how could you give, and then feel like, oh, I'm begging? You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't normally happen. So that's why I said, if you feel like you're begging, then you probably are. So my thing is, you could create a slew of content that you can give up front, put in an autoresponder, have it going. And then literally you could say, you know what? For $20 a month, I created a membership site where and this is what I always tell my artists that I'm helping. For $20 a month, I create a membership site where I'm going to do a live performance every single week, like from here. So I could set up my camera right here, just like this, and I could literally, for $20 a month, I could engage. I could have everybody come on this blab, engage with them, and then I could sit here, I could play my music, create an experience, and then maybe I can do like a raffle or a giveaway, right? And I could say, you know what? Whoever refers the most people to this, private membership site where I'm giving value every single, week, then I'm going to choose 5 people every single month that I'm going to fly out, or that I'm going to, meet up with, and we're going to spend the day together. We're going to have breakfast, and we're going to just have a good time and whatever, right? So if you have diehard fans, like a lot of these major label artists, they don't, if they knew this stuff, like, they leave so much money on the table, because if you got like 1 million Instagram followers, or even if you got 100,000, if 1% of those people were paying them $20 a month to get on a blab every single week, they would increase their income probably 10x, right? Any independent artist can do that right now, right? They can, like, $20 is nothing. Like, people spend $20 on just
lattes,
on anything.
Yeah.
So it's not a fact of they don't have money. It's the fact that you haven't created the value for them to come and consume. So
let's open things up a little bit. Do folks here have questions on, like, basically, like we said, basically today's topic is to talk about how, indie creatives are really starting to kind of branch out and really starting to kind of reach their fans in ways that like never before and stuff. Does anybody have something that they really is a burning question, something that they're struggling with, something they really want to, get some advice on? Let's open it up a little bit and see if we, we can help somebody out here. We see some really cool guys. Richard's been kind of saying, Princess This Down, VIP membership, see rehearsals. Great, awesome. Yes, it's great to see that there are artists who are doing this and stuff.
So much
And
is.
Creatives Link was saying about how if you don't value yourself, no one else will. Absolutely, and that's definitely what Brandon was saying as well, and stuff like that. So, does anybody have something that a launch that they're trying to work on for their album or a book or something that they're really trying to really get off the ground and stuff? We'd love to kind of see if there's something we can kind of offer in terms of advice. That's really, to me, one of the main things that we want to do with these masterminds is like really, if you can take one thing this week that you can put into what you're doing and stuff and get your art out there, get your product or service to really, benefit people. How long do you make the launch? That's a great question. I think it really depends on, what it is that you're trying to do and stuff like that. And then what is the expected kind of time frame to kind of really give it momentum? Try to plan as a minimum of 6 months out. And because it just seems like that's a long time, but it really flies by when you're trying to basically get out the different, promotions, get out the different kind of social media to really what's been really helping artists or excuse me, authors in particular is getting on podcasts. And really, like it's one thing to kind of like go on different shows one at a time, stuff like that. But it's another thing when you're trying to basically get the word out about your book and everything. So, Brandon, what did you say for like launching like?
If I was an artist like trying to do launches, I would do them every quarter. Every quarter. So I'd build up to it. I'd give enough. So listen, for $20 a month from let's say 100 people, what's that? $2,000?
Yeah.
Okay, that's $2,000 a month. So let's say you just had one product that you sold for $20 a month, and you got 40 people out of the billion people who are on who are on Twitter, or who are on, sorry, not Twitter, Facebook. Let's say you got 40 out of the billion to pay you $20 every single month, right? That means you're making $4,000 every single month. You could make a living off. You could live off that, right? Now then, at the end of each quarter, you're gonna launch a product, and in that product, basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna create packages that you sell anywhere from $10 to as high as $10,000, right? And then you're gonna rally it up. You're gonna create enough momentum and enough buzz around it. But instead of, see, where people go wrong is they try to do this with cold strangers. You're gonna do this with people who already know you, who already like you, who already trust you, who you've already been talking to every day, who are conditioned to open your emails, conditioned to watch your videos, and you're going to create such an irresistible offer for that money that, of course, they're going to want to join. And then you're going to connect it to a cause. You're going to say, listen, part of these proceeds are going to this cause, right? And it's also going to help me fund this next album and create experiences for you guys. You could do that once a quarter easily. You know what I mean? Like, that's how you would do that.
So here's the thing too about, and I have to admit, that's one of my weaknesses as well, is building the list.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is it that like kind of basically allows people to into their mailbox and where you're not only welcome, but then they gladly open your emails and stuff like that? How do you kind of, create, this communication that is continual, that like, in other words, you're not a nuisance where you're basically saying, like, oh, buy my music,
Right.
Like kind of watch my stuff and everything like that. So what is it that like kind of allows that kind of access to these folks?
So to get a person to opt in, it's a simple equation. It's what I call a value exchange proposition. So I have tens of thousands of people on my list, which I don't even really mail them on a regular basis. I just have like autoresponders and stuff in there. But I'm building the list every single day through my YouTube videos. So what I do is I simply say, look, if you give me this, I will give you that. It's really simple. And what I focus on doing is I want to give them 10 times the value of what I'm asking for. So if I'm asking them for their name and email address, I need to prepare something that is so valuable that giving their name and email address is like a no-brainer, right? So for instance, in my funnel, I teach music artists how to put their music directly in front of millions of people in the next 24 to 48 hours, right? So basically, I can like guarantee that leveraging YouTube ads. So if a person comes across my video and I say, look, for your name and email address, I'm going to show you how to get massive exposure and put your music in front of millions of people. That's why I have like a 50 to 65% conversion rate, because who wouldn't? If you need that to survive, of course you're going to want that. So that's really all you do to get the name and email address, is you create a value proposition that's irresistible. Now, once you get that, then from there, you got to understand the path that the person's on. So I know if a person opts into my list because they need exposure, without exposure, they don't have this, and this. So I've mapped out all those things, and I create videos that show them insights and perspectives on how to get that. Now, once those insights and perspectives build up enough, then they reach out to me and they say, hey, I want to talk to you about getting help with, whatever. And that's basically how you do it. So an artist could do the same thing with their fans.
So what are some of the things that an artist would do though? Like, would they be talking about, something related to what it is and about the music? Like, in other words,
So
the show, or
so if you think about social media right now, if you think about Instagram, if you think about Facebook, Twitter, what do people love to do? Right? Like, people love to be involved with the conversation. They love to be involved with the trends, right? They love to like give their opinion and their perspectives on things, like everybody does, right? So if you're a music artist, instead of you saying, hey, come here, get my free download or whatever, which holds no weight, it's like, this is what we're about. This is what we're standing for. This is what we're against. This is what my music represents. So if you can relate to this, if you have that internal, desire inside of you to help us move this thing forward, then give us your name and email address, and I'm going to show you how you can join this movement of people who are doing this. And then it's like, they opt in, and now you have the music as the ambiance, and you tie in the cause with the music, right? So the career should never be about the artist. It should be about the artist's experience to help somebody else get to the next level, or to solve a problem that's going on, that people are facing. So that's essentially how you do it.
I think that's the thing that's kind of, for me, what's really been a big shift, from the traditional model to the indie creative model, is that like we're kind of, there used to be this kind of thing of celebrity and, the performer being up there and on the stage and far away and stuff like that. And then now we have like this immediacy, stuff like that. If anything, it's partly what, some artists hesitate with, because of the fact that like, they wonder like, am I like kind of getting too close? Am I like kind of, and I think that's kind of creates a little bit of attention on the other end of the spectrum, where like they're kind of wondering like, am I sharing too much and stuff? How do they, like decide what it is that like, is too much to share versus like something that like we've talked about that matters to their audience?
Yeah, I think that it really depends on what type of brand you have, because every artist has different types of brands. But essentially, how you have to think about this is, okay, and I always tell artists this too, what you're trading for your music career is your life experience. You're not trading your talent. You're trading your vulnerability and your ability to communicate those things through your music. The most powerful music, the most successful artists are very vulnerable with their experiences. So you have to then say, okay, you know what? Do I really, like, how far along those lines do I want to go? Like, if you look at the most impactful songs, look at Adele's latest song. How vulnerable was that song? That's why it was so big, because people could relate to that. They could relate to that scenario, and it just hit home. So she had to go to a certain place in her life to write something like that. But if she stayed on the surface, it wouldn't have been that big. So you have to first decide that that's what I'm exchanging for, that's the cost of being an artist. And then from there, you can start to figure the rest out.
Yeah, I think that's the key. It's like where it's a little bit of, to me, the point of what you're doing as an artist is you're exploring this territory about where you're connecting with your audience and where, like, kind of, I think it's finding that healthy boundary. That's a little bit like kind of the same thing as what entrepreneurs in general, like kind of, like entrepreneurs will go off the deep end and like really pour their hearts and souls into businesses. I've seen that different times as well. And I think, as an artist entrepreneur, it's really like kind of defining a little bit about what you're about and along the lines of what again, the things we talked about earlier about what you stand for. And I think that's the thing that like kind of, where on the one hand you are influencing and being influenced by your audience, but the other is like kind of still staying, having integrity, like deciding for yourself what you stand for and stuff. And kind of like, I love you guys, but this is me, like kind of, I think that's the thing, like kind of finding that balance of where it is. So I think, again, what I want to do is just kind of open it up a little bit more and like kind of, any other questions that folks have about what it is that like they're working on, any kind of, burning questions you have about like getting your art out there, and want to see if like you have different things that you'd like to ask while we have this chance and stuff like that. Next week, by the way, I want to let folks know that we're going to have my friend Dawn Fields. She's going to talk about her experiences in filmmaking, and most recently, she's really had some really great ones at a film festival and stuff like that. And we're going to cover that and go dive into depth about what it means to kind of as a filmmaker to basically connect with your audience and to on another level. Like, what is it that like people tend to think of as film festival as like places just to show their videos and their films and stuff like that. But really, like, I think she's had a great experience. I'm really looking forward to kind of hearing more about what was it that was unique about this experience and stuff. So unless folks have some questions that they want to ask and stuff like that, we're going to wrap it up a little bit. And definitely, thanks again, as always, for joining us. Thanks, Brandon. Always love what you throw down and stuff like that. And as you can see, we had the link on there for Brandon's channel and stuff like that. Be sure to check it out. He's got great stuff, and definitely, I actually signed up for his list as well, just to basically check out the different videos that he has. So thanks everybody for joining us, and as I mentioned, next week we'll look forward to having Dawn Fields about making films and also being on the film festival circuit, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks,
then.
John.
All right then.